love
Stunning.
koi fish. I love them. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're
Appreciate-
welcome. I like my artwork,
I love artwork.
you know, and there's so many ways to have it. So how many of us are joining today?
साथ वीडियो का बाद में नहीं होता है।
I'm not sure.
Okay, I know we have 7 participants so far, including me.
Okay.
So did people want me to lead it? Because I know we're having technical issues and not everybody that wants to be here is here. Technology, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go close some other screens. There we go.
Please shut up. Oh,
So if there's only going to be 4 of us charge to, oh, there's 10 of us now. Hello, audio listeners. Maybe
hello.
they can't see us, but I still like to wave. Hey, Ali. So Ali, to be
Hello.
serious and silly, Ali, at my age, I'm happy to have hair. So I have some follicle envy, okay? Because you still got a wow head of hair.
Are you feeling jealous by my hairs? Oh my-
Yeah, mine's gone thin.
Your hair
So-
is still nice.
I need the person in charge to give me the ability to share screen, and I think I can do it.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, then I need to figure out how to do that. We can get started. Anyways, I'll introduce myself. I'm Michael Ballard from Resiliency for Life. And part of about being resilient is flexibility. So when the technology lets us down, we'll just do our best and keep moving. And so resiliency to me is something I've been interested in since 6. At 6 years old, I had a concussion and I was in and out of consciousness for 3 days. And the young man that came to my hospital room also had a concussion. Both had frontal lobe. I had a headache that was miles wide and miles deep and a throbbing up the back of my head, pardon me, with every heartbeat that was like, whoa, this better stop soon because I can't think. And I was fascinated at 6 that my roommate, I wanted it quiet. Could you turn the lights off, please? And whisper. He was at the other end of the spectrum, which I've since found is normal behavior for a head injury. Some of us get real quiet and turn the lights down and whisper, and other people, he yelled and screamed for a day and a half. And my parents finally got me another room where I could have peace and quiet. Nowadays, I just get earplugs, I'm sure. But when I was 6, there was no earplugs that I'm aware of except for little cotton balls, so they didn't do a lot. Anyways, that made me interested in behavior. Why could 2 people with almost identical circumstances respond so differently? Not good or bad, just wow, how, why, how? Anyways, that got me started. So from there, life was good. You go through school, and at 17, I learned I have a digestive upset. Oh, a few months later, the digestive upset's diagnosed as a chronic illness. And that's when I learned to use what my family taught me, respected the medical professional, but he was wrong because he said, there's nothing you can do. And we know in the resiliency model, so somebody's being, oh, Sandhu, you're being asked to add people. People are being asked to come, are waiting to come in. So we got 7 more to join us. Woo! Oh, 6 more to join us.
So many people are waiting. They are asking to join because I made you host so that you can add them only.
Oh, I can? Okay, I see them now. Okay, here they come. Hello, I did not realize I was in charge. My apologies. It's so hard to get good help. So Michael Ballard, Resiliency for Life. It's great to be here. We have several people on audio and we still have people who need and want to be admitted. My apologies for not understanding. I recognize a gentleman from the Toronto area, just down the road and over. But then people all over the world. It's great. So we're talking resiliency, and it's really important that we realize that resiliency is something we can learn, and what works for you really well might not be the best path for me, and what works for another might not be the best path for either of us. And there's Brazil coming online. So as we go through this today, I just want you to realize that I see myself as a tour guide as opposed to a resiliency expert. I've had a lot of success with people who have not had success with therapy, find success with learning what resiliency is, the skills, the process. Some that went back to therapy and had more success because maybe we opened up their belief systems. Maybe we opened up their feelings to be open to healing. But for me, resiliency as a tour guide is going, so there's a process, there's vision and values, attitude, which shows in our language, there's skills, there's key factors out around us, in us, that we have to accept. One of the things that a key factor in Ontario that's a real blessing for my friend who has heart health is him being resilient is he managed his weight, managed his diet, still had a heart attack. But in Canada, we had such a fast response time with the fire and the ambulance that he managed to get to the hospital within the golden hour to get the help he needed to get healthy. So some factors are out of our control in our community or our country just by virtue of where we're born. So it's not a judgment, it just is an acknowledgement that it's the way it is. So resiliency, it's about stretching in the face of setbacks. Is that Jamali? Blue shirt with a nice pattern. Did I pronounce your name right? Anyways, I just saw somebody looking intensely into the screen. So I started Resiliency for Life, calling the company Metamorphosis in 1987 because that was a big word I learned in my grade 6 science class. Caterpillars, butterflies, major transition. Wow. I quickly found out that my target market of healthcare and business people with master's degrees going, metamorphosis, what's that? And I'm like, what? I learned it in grade 6. So one of the things I've learned about resiliency is you have to adapt your language to the person receiving it. Doesn't matter how educated or uneducated they are. If they don't understand you, you're wasting your time. So I've learned to be very, very flexible with my words because I've had people get angry because I said we have to be assertive, and they were taught that assertive was the identical to aggressive. And it was like, whoa, we better define words here, because in my world, I want assertiveness with everybody I deal with. That's how we learn. But this particular group were all taught that they were the same thing, which was fascinating because they were younger than me. And I was in Canada and I thought that assertive was assertive and aggressive was aggressive. And aggressive is I win, you lose, or you win, I lose. And assertive was we both win. Anyways, so that got us going. So I am going to figure out where I share my screen. And it's up on the left side, if I remember correctly. There we go. Can you see fear?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So for me, fear. I have a business background and a lot of business development, meaning my job was to knock on doors, make phone calls, and being of a certain vintage, not even fax machines in the beginning of my business career. So it was strictly phone calls on landlines or knocking on doors. And in business development, you get a lot of rejection, a lot of no, not interested, go away. So how do we deal with that? What does it mean? So fear, does it keep us safe? In some cases, absolutely. But in other cases, it holds us back. It depends on the situation. So I wanted to examine that a little bit. And so that's why we're all here. So fear, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to me? I was once robbed as a 19-year-old. My first day on the job as acting supervisor. I was on probation. I'd already worked there as a staffer, got promoted to supervisor. First day there, a gang came in and started stealing. I had enough martial arts training that I wasn't stupid. One person does not fight 14 people. But one could use distraction. So I had enough fear to be scared on the inside, but and had a tremor, and yet had enough training that my fear was reduced to the point where I could think, and I helped them steal more. Because you can't hit me or hurt my staff if your arms are full of stolen goods. That was my thinking. I'm sure the owner of the company wasn't impressed, but tough, he hid under the desk and locked his door, so he didn't get a say. So fear. Feelings of fear. Paul Ekman, I highly recommend you read him if fear is something you're interested in. And Paul says this about fear. 3 key factors about fear. How severe is the harm that is threatened? Is the harm immediate or impending? And what action can be taken to reduce or eliminate the threat? And there's where resiliency comes in. My martial arts training could not make 14 hooligans or thugs go away, stealing off my company I was working for, but I had 2 young ladies and 2 other young gentlemen, both 16, and about 110 pounds each, and these thugs were all big guys. So it was like, don't fight what you can't win, just stay safe and do a distraction. So that was my coping. But resiliency helps us understand the intensity better, understands the timing better, and gives us many more coping
Can you
skills.
cover what?
Pardon? Okay,
Nothing.
so I'm going too fast here. So what triggers our fears? In an immediate situation, darkness or loss of visibility. If you've ever been in a building and the power goes out, before I had my phone, I used to carry a flashlight when I worked in a large building, because even though it was a new building, the power backup broke, didn't work. So, whoops, pardon me. So heights and flying, anybody else have a fear of heights? I have a fear of heights. So when I climbed the ladder to help my mother at her house, she made tea. I climbed the ladder to clean the gutters out from the leaves. Somewhere after the 5th rung, when I'm 6 to 8 feet in the air, my knees start to shake and my hands quiver. Social interaction. For some of my friends, snakes, rodents, spiders, and other animals scare them. I'm fortunate that only large spiders bother me. Having been a cancer patient and faced death and dying 3 times, yes, it's a trigger for many. But if you make peace with life to date, peace with your mission and purpose in life, you can reduce your triggers and the intensity. And again, I highly recommend you read Paul Ekman's thoughts on fear. So the universal function of fear is to avoid or reduce harm. Again, in some situations, fear is a very real, useful reaction. But back to my business development days, I had friends that wouldn't make phone calls to look for more business. And that meant that they didn't make any money and the company didn't get any new business. And so their fear of rejection got in the way of them doing their job. So they gave it a real polite name in the 70s and 80s. They called it call reluctance. So you can't pick up the phone to say, Mr. Jones, Mr. Smith, I'm looking for new business. We offer this. Would you be interested in the meeting, discuss how what we do could save you money, make you money, keep you safer, make things happen faster, etc. All the reasons we buy things. They had call reluctance. They couldn't handle rejection, so they just stopped. So what do we do about it? Cause of fear, there's rejection. There is just the fear of not being liked if it's a social. I remember somebody once said I was lucky when I got invited to do a couple of events and speak with a couple of thousand people, that I had no fear. I said, no, 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 no. My knees are like jello. You're asking me to talk about mental health from a recovered cancer patient's point of view. What do you mean I got no fear? I just don't show it as much on the outside because I've been preparing for a long time to do this. One of the VPs I did small projects for, because he was up here and I was entry level, second level, he used to say 7 P's make a difference. Proper prior planning and practice promotes peak performance. That's corny, but it's very real. 7 P's. Proper prior practice and planning promotes peak performance. So what's the cause of fear? Well, social rejection, fear of bodily harm, fear of the unknown, fear of loss. I've had some very smart friends not start a business because they were scared they'd lose everything. I said, but you set a record in your company for productivity. You set a record in safety. You set a record for innovation, getting several patents for your company. You're one of the smartest people out of the 300 people that work there. You don't think that if you went out and did your own thing, you'd be even more successful? So 7 P's, please explain. I got asked. I'm typing it in the chat. So 7 P's, proper prior planning. In other words, you get enough insight that you're going to plan, but you're going to plan well because you've read, you've got a mentor, and you know exactly what you're planning out. You're not just going off daydreaming and willy-nilly. You've got an actual plan that's based on reality, and you see a gap in society and business and healthcare and education, and you've got an idea, a product, something to serve that niche. So proper prior planning and practice. I have an acquaintance who I love deeply who's gone bankrupt twice. His business plans are impeccable. He did the planning. He found a niche. He got education. He got certifications to serve that niche. He didn't do any practice. He never asked anybody for the business. He had call reluctance. Sadly, he got stuck. He could plan. He could do everything but execute. So he didn't get to promote peak performance and gain the income he deserved because he didn't do any practicing for looking for business, and then he didn't do any looking for business. So proper prior planning and practice promotes peak performance. The practice part is the execution, and you constantly make it better by practice, practice, practice. I got an iPhone, and regardless of what model you have, we've got these amazing phones that are cordless now because people kept practicing to make them better, make them better, make them better, make them better. And so that's what the 7 P's are all about. It's corny, it's silly, but it's very serious at the same time. So thanks for asking about what it was. So action. So we can have fear rationally because, oh my gosh, this is bigger than us. I had a business that I got asked to do a project with. And imagine in the month of May, they realized they hadn't met their target for income for February. Do you think they left it a long time to start to work on it? So rational. So we came up with some solutions, and the next day they told me that they made enough money in the first hour of the next day executing a couple of my ideas. They paid for the whole meeting for 27 people flying in from North America. Emotional. Is it an emotional fear? When I climb that ladder, I've got 2 hands on the ladder. It's an expensive ladder. It's for every 4 feet up, I put it 1 foot out. So I've got the proper grade. I've taken the course on safety and ladders for 1 story high use. But I'm still having to fight oh my gosh, this height bothers me. And there's the physical response I've got. Rationally, I know I'm safe. My mother's gutters are, for the most part, all over gardens, which are nice and soft and gentle, and there's nothing staked up. They're not vegetable gardens. They're low-level ground gardens. They're very beautiful. So where's your fear from? Is it rational, emotional, physical? Is it real in the moment? Or are you projecting into the future? All of this is valid, but where's your fear from? What will you do? And there's where resiliency comes in. So as I said, my fear of heights, is it rational? No. Is it emotional? Yes. Is it physical? Yes. Is it real? It appears so. But I've never fallen off a ladder. Or maybe it's the fear of dentists. I had a friend only went to the dentist when they needed 3 teeth removed with emergency surgery because they'd gone so bad, they were risking brain damage if they didn't get it fixed. So fear of dentists for people. For some people, it's rational. For some people, it's emotional and physical because of the pain issues. Is it real? For some, maybe they had a bad dentist at one point. Is it imagined? For some. So part of being resilient is you look at the outcome of going versus the delay of not going. And by postponing, it gets worse. So key point to consider. Research from the 1980s for North America stated that the average person puts their thoughts in the negative. And 81% of the time it's done in the negative. So if 81% of people's thoughts are in the negative, when we want to help people be more resilient, when we want to get past our own fears, we have to start to recognize these fears and these negative frames of thoughts. So for me to go back to the ladder, is it a rational fear that I climb up a ladder and at the 5-foot mark, my knees get like jelly and my hands get a little shake? No, I know I'm safe here, but here it's bothering me. Physically, I've got a response. It's a very real fear. And so I took a climbing course for a couple of days. Safety harnesses, safety helmet, 2 layers of clothing so that if I moved too fast on the rock cliff, all of 90 feet high, I wouldn't get a scrape. It was really well thought out, and I was very safe, and the ropes were tied off to great big trees. There was somebody in the ground with a safety harness brake so that if I let go at the wrong time, they could stop me because there was a brake built into my harness. So rationally, I was safe. The first 3 trips going up and the first 2 coming down, I froze. I breathed, I practiced calmness, I breathed and practiced calmness. So it's important. So let's go and ask questions now. So who's got a question? Take yourself off mute. And what's your question?
Michael is now opening the topic for questions. If anyone have questions, this is the good time to do.
Yes, Mr. Celebrity Guru.
I am humbled, honored, blessed, privileged, and super excited to have myself and learning from the best of the best, Michael, magnetic, magical Michael, as well as the team of the Michael. And thank you so much, Sandhu, for inviting me. And my question to you is, I've run 12 marathons. I've been spreading this message, and I wanted like, let's say 1,000 marathoners. I made the Guinness World Record book and author, right? Now I'm having the event with my publisher, creating the Guinness World Record authors, right? I know 500 authors you are bringing, and out of 500, I promise to bring 50 authors. Why not people are connecting with me, and always I'm showing my medals. If I can do it, so can you. Showing my medals, I'm showing my books and everything. If I can write the boy who born in a small village of India, that boy who suffered in petty complex because of English, and he writes not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 books, all books in English. Same boy who suffered in petty complex because of English, and that boy is living half of his life, 25 years in English-speaking country, North America's country called Canada. If I can do it, why not you? Why are you not waking up, like shaking up? I'm here to awaken the celebrity within you and 1 billion plus people. I'm here to awaken the awakening within you and 1 billion plus people. I'm here to awaken the spirituality within you and 1 billion plus people. Why are you not waking up? Why are you not, joining in this movement? Because to reach this much, I need like a real person, like Michaels, and Sandhus, and I have celebrities. I keep saying, I said billion times, like, you are the celebrity, man. You are the celebrity. I'm not talking about me, the celebrity guru. I'm talking about you, like, you are the celebrity, man. When you came in the womb uterus of your own mom, there are 700,000 millions of sperm ready to fertilize the egg ovum of your own mom. Out of 700,000, 700 millions, you came as a celebrity. Yes, you are the celebrity. Then you became a one cell, two cell, four cells, and so forth. Now look at you. You are the powerhouse of multi-trillion cells. Yes, you are the celebrity. Why, am I talking to ships, man? I am the lion, I'm the tiger, man. There are 8 billion people in the world, man. How come how come, people are not like waking and grabbing this vision and mission and passion and purpose of the small boy who born in the small village of beautiful country called Mother India, and I've done thousands and thousands of Facebook lives and this and that and whatnot. What am I missing? Why people are fearful, or what is the communication gap? What is the communication is not happening, buddy? I need your help, Michael. Help me out, brother.
Fear is an easy default. It's the easiest place to go to because it's too scary. Everybody agree? Yes, too scary, so we just won't. And so if only 19% of us are framing things in the positive for the majority of time, that means that we're in the minority. And so that means that people are scared to follow. One of my favorite books in the 80s when I was a retail consultant was Dr. Shad Helmstetter wrote a book, and it was all about self-talk, what to say when you talk to yourself. So Dr. Shad Helmstetter, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. It was published in the 80s. And I carried it with me to my clients saying, so why is it that this book and my client in this mall, why are they 64% ahead of their sales targets, which were large, and they're 40% short on staff? They know that there's some things impossible. There's only 24 hours in the day, so you can't work 28. But they do know that if they work smart with joy, respect, and playfulness and stay safe, it's amazing what can be accomplished. And several of my retailers accomplished so much because they took what I call a realistic, optimistic point of view. And so people are not joining in to positive psychology and resiliency and going for therapy often because fear is the default. It might keep us safe. Like when the gas station I was working in, people were getting robbed and the owner hid under the desk. He was staying safe at 30 years old. Well, I'm 19. I got 2 16-year-old girls and 2 16-year-old boys I'm responsible for. In my family, you step up regardless of the price to yourself, unless it's real severe. And so I just got the keys out and helped them steal more. It was just a natural thing to do, distraction. But so many people said, you're crazy. So what was I going to do? Run away and leave 4 vulnerable kids there? I had by then a few thousand hours in martial arts training. I certainly couldn't fight them and win. The guy could have picked me up with one arm. They were huge, these guys. That's why they were bullies. So people don't respond because fear is a good default for a lot of people. And when I was in my sales days and business development, and all these people wouldn't call because they had call reluctance, the sayings behind their back were false expectations appearing real. So fear, or feel it and execute and arrive in reality. It's a corny one, but it's also true. We have to accept our circumstances and then say, how do we move forward? What are the skills? What are we trying to create here? So who else has got a question?
I have
Got
a
an
question.
idea? Yes, sir.
Now, our life is a composite of what we had been. We draw all our conclusion based on what we have learned, observed, and experienced. Earlier in your talk, you mentioned about some of the causes. So if the cause exists within me, based on the fact that all my life composed of the experiences I've accumulated over a lifetime, how would somebody else know the why? Because if the problem continue to persist, so whatever the why I've been told is an incorrect why because it doesn't result in solving the problem. Now, if the fear is related to hypothetically with an experience that took place maybe when you were 4 years old, how would that be solved just by somebody saying all these things you just mentioned?
It wouldn't. You've got to acknowledge you have the fear, and then, as I've just put up a slide, you got to take action.
Okay.
And so next steps. But people have to realize the fear is getting in the way of their happiness, their health. For example, my chronic illness, the gastroenterologist said there was nothing I can do. And while he was good intentioned, the Harvard Medical School Mind Body Clinic since 1915 and 69 and University of Chicago in 89 stated that we have to practice certain skills. And somebody's drawing on the screen with blue and we can all see it. And so their research was that if people practice what I call resiliency, they call mind-body skills. And research from the University of Winnipeg back in the 90s said this, supplemented this, is that if we take action, we can then reduce our issues in our chronic illness or in our business life. We can have a better quality life and experience. And so to be resilient, to get over our own fears, it's a process. It's our core values, it's language, it's skills, key factors. So great point. Talking about it alone is not going to do us any good. So it's putting a plan into action where we stay consistent. So I grew up in a family where half the family on one side had a lot of fear, and they'd had some major tragedies the generations before me. And the other side also had great tragedies, and yet they didn't seem to have a lot of fear. So as a kid, it was like, these aunties and uncles are pretty calm and mellow and chillaxed, to use a term I heard as a teenager. And these aunties and uncles are pretty wound tight. Both had serious losses, but the ones that were very wound tight had their losses all as kids. And I believe that's a piece of the difference. They didn't have the capacity to understand, comprehend, and work through how to be safer.
Can I expand my question just
Please.
to a little bit more?
Please.
Just as an example, if we are trying to, I'm a science student, you know, I mean, so I just think scientifically. If you are trying to solve a mathematical problem and you came at the bottom with the wrong answer, you always go back to find out what did you do wrong that resulted in the wrong answer.
Yes.
Only when you find that mistake and error, the problem will be solved.
Yes.
Now, based on that scientific analogy, how, for again, an example, if the incident that is the cause of that fear that took place when you were 4 years old, what is the process that will take individual back in time to confront what exactly happened to be able to overcome? Because only if the correct why is known, the problem will cease to persist or it will continue to persist.
Yes. So depending on the severity, it could be timeline therapy. It could be neurolinguistic programming. It could be hypnosis. There's a few dozen different types of therapy. I work with long-term unemployed, some people about to work for 10 years. So we had a resiliency model to help them better understand what their gifts and skills were, because some of them, not all, but some of them had so much fear of rejection because it had been so long since they had a job that they just couldn't perform. So we went back in time and we started at 5 years old. When did you learn to ride a tricycle? There's skills involved in riding that tricycle. Did you upgrade to a bicycle? There's more skills involved with that. Sounds pretty basic, but we worked them through 40 plus hours of going through their history of what have you learned to do? Those are your transferable skills. That's why you're worthy of being hired. So you're right, going back in time, if it's a trauma, job search was different. I wasn't paid to do therapy there. I was paid to get them employed. But it's going back to a place where they were feeling safe, I didn't realize I was doing, some would say timeline therapy, getting them going back to before they felt stuck. But that's one of the things that works is timeline therapy or hypnosis or neurolinguistic programming, all skill sets to help people move forward to be more resilient. Make sense?
Yeah, just one thing on I don't know about the timeline therapy. I'm not familiar with it. I'm somewhat familiar with the NLP. As soon as the hypnosis, isn't that hypnosis gives a control to the practitioner instead of the subject?
Not to my knowledge. People will only do what they want to do, but you're guiding them. So if you've ever, I've only seen a stage hypnosis once, but he brought people up who were already willing to have an adventure in front of the group. So in my case, he had these people pretend to be on a canoe trip, going down an ancient river, going through a swarm of mosquitoes. So they were smacking their faces, knocking out the butt, killing the mosquitoes. And it was hilarious, but that was because they wanted to participate. And yes, they were hypnotized, but they were willing participants. So some would say that good advertising does that.
Wouldn't that make it more dangerous?
I don't see it as dangerous. As a kid, there was a car dealership in Toronto who sold a brand of cars now obsolete called Ramblers. And so his tagline was "Ramble in the Rumble, you'll see." It's corny, but it's tattooed on my brain. My advertising friend said they call that creating a brain tattoo. So I don't see hypnosis done as an unhealthy thing if it's done by a licensed, registered, well-trained professional, because the Hollywood's got it all wrong. You can't get people to do what they don't want to already do.
Okay.
So to go back to the, yes, we have trauma, and how do we work it through? So in my case, I work with a little boy who had been severely traumatized, and we took him through a process of, what would you like to be? Because because of the trauma, he was loud and fast and acting out, and school was going to kick him out. He's only 5. We're going to traumatize him again. So we taught him the language of resiliency. I am loud and fast. And it was like high fives. Yes, you are. Way to go. But how about I am quiet and slow to be more resilient, so that when it's time for sleep or time for reading or time for class instructions or taking a test, you be quiet and slow. So we took him through some skills and gave him some factors. In less than 5 weeks, after 18 months of failed therapy, he had calmness. It doesn't change the fact that he witnessed the trauma, and when he's older, he needs to logically, emotionally have help to process it. But at 5, talk therapy, he needed far more than that to be calm. So we've had some big successes by taking them through it. So, whoops, my apologies. For some reason, it's jumping. So resiliency, so the question I got asked is, what's the antidote to fear? I believe we build our capacity to be more resilient. 2 major components to resiliency: inner and outer. If you have a question, feel free to leave it in the chat, because somebody's put a blue marker drawing and I can't see people raising their hands. So inner resiliency, what's going on in here, rationally, emotionally, physically, and having had some serious Shaolin Kung Fu training, and be clear, I'm not a good Kung Fuer physically, but what it did for me rationally, emotionally was profound. So that's why I had such a great experience in the hospital fighting cancer. Not saying it helped me get cured, but it helped me be safe, feel stronger, and be more stable. So inner resiliency, vision and self of life. So I see myself. How? If there's a picture of you in the dictionary, just you, what are the words, the phrases that are there that define you? What are the audio and the video clips that you have allowed life to define you. And there's three basic types of files that we all hold in here in self-definition. Some that lift us up. Some of those are right. Some of those are less right. Some of them that confuse us. Some of them are right. Some of them are wrong. And some of them are out and out lies that just pull us down and they're not true. So for example, when my daughter was 3 and we were moving to a new house, we asked her to play in her bedroom. We brought her toys, water, juice, snacks. Well, she got out of the door and managed to get past us and the moving people and climb the new tree in the front yard, because trees are beautiful, Daddy. Well, when we finally realized she was gone, she's 38 now and everything's good. She climbed 40 feet up the tree in a 60-foot high tree. Daddy, the view's amazing. Well, there's my 3-year-old in rubber boots, her pink blankie sucking her thumb, and her favorite dolly. So I know that I don't like climbing trees and heights because somewhere after 5 feet, my knees shake. So being resilient as a parent, though, I said to myself, you just have to do this. So I climbed up to the 20-foot mark and said, wow, it's a great view here. Meanwhile, I'm holding onto the whole tree like it's going to fall over in an earthquake. And I said to her, so did you know that the best tree climbers climb with nothing in their hands so they can hold properly in case it gets windy? Could you throw the dolly down to Mommy on the ground? Can you throw the blanket down to Daddy? And I took the blanket, threw it down to Mommy. And I said, so I need you to climb down for snack time. And you should have 2 hands and 1 foot or 2 feet on 1 hand all the time. So that's what we did. And she came down. So my inner definition of self was I was a good parent. That helped me get over my own fear of climbing the tree to get her safe. So those 3 things that are in us, the audio and video, the text, the feelings attached to different issues, who put them there? And what can we do about it? And what are the values that we attach to that? What's the language? Remember, if we frame things in the negative, we'll probably get a negative outcome. I got told in sales I was lucky, and I went, lucky? No, I worked 60 hours a week for 18 months. That's not luck, that's focus and persistence. That client that wouldn't talk to us for 40 years, he came on board for $80,000 a year because I went 4 times a year. And the first 2 times he was like, leave, don't come back. I don't like your company. I kept asking around, what words do I say to him to get his attention? One of my mentors said, ask him if he's ever had a staff person he hired that disappointed him. Boom. I went in and said, you had a bad experience with us many decades ago. Have you ever had a staff person you hired that disappointed you? Ah, see, that's what you experienced. One of ours, less than impressive. They don't work for us anymore. We'd like a second chance. So if I had said, it's impossible, he said no 9 times, I'd have given up. So it wasn't that I was smarter than others. It was just I was persistent, and my self-talk, my language, my inner words were, I have to find a better way. I have to find another way. I'm going to keep engaging with him low key so that he doesn't kick me off the property, but he's still willing to listen. So language, what language do you use to describe situations as you try to move forward, as you do move forward? What skills do you use? And we'll copy that, get to that in a minute or two. And key factors. So support, outer for resiliency. Family, friends, neighborhood, community. And one of the things I noticed when I was ill in the hospital fighting my fights was some people had no neighborhood or community or friends showing up to support them, which was really sad. It was like, how can you have lived in this place for 40 years and not one friend or family showed up to support you? I had an embarrassment of riches. I certainly wasn't smarter than others. It wasn't kinder or nicer. I found out later, oh, I was the only one out of the people I shared rooms with or my neighbors that actually asked for help. So I say to people, hey, I'm fighting cancer. Don't need sympathy or empathy. But if you got 20 minutes to drop by once a month, I'd appreciate it because I was in for 7 weeks. And they did. It was remarkable. So support, education, formal and informal. Who is your resource for education? Laura Mae Jones knows things that I don't. I might just know a few things she doesn't. I know she has great taste in art from what's over her shoulder. We talked about that before we got started, so I figure I can, not pick on her, but point out that it is great artwork. What healthcare professionals do you know? As we go through the pandemic, I've been amazed at a couple of my acquaintances that have acted very foolishly and irrationally about the pandemic, because it's just all a big corporate grab for money. And I asked them, how many nurses do you know? None. How many healthcare professionals do you know? None. How many doctors do you know? None. Well, it's really hard to have a point of view that's educated if you don't know anybody that's actually in the front lines working. So part of being resilient is a diversity of friends and connections and acquaintances. And sports. I don't love watching a lot of sports, but sports brings me many analogies of persistence. And that I really love. Amateur sport, professional sports. The race in Spain that I've seen many times, the long distance runners, and the one man got confused just a few meters from the end. And the guy in second place, even though they didn't speak the same language, realized that the runner at the front of the race was going to lose because he was dehydrated. So he took his arm, and when they got close to the finish line, pushed him across first. And people went, well, that was crazy. You could have won. He went, no, you don't know my mother and how I was raised. I would have won under false pretense. He's more skilled. He's more talented than me. He deserved to be first. He's first. And now I have a lifelong friend. I won more than he did. So part of being resilient is, what do you do to lift yourself up? Who are your role models? Who have you asked into your life? And one thing I've learned as I age, and to quote Betty White, I'm not old, I'm just older than I used to be, because that's my frame of reference. Because I meet friends at 50 that start acting like they're 90, and I have friends at 70 that act like they're 105. Use it or lose it. One of my mentors, long past, when I was 17, was 97. Mr. Burt walked 5 miles a day, 6 days a week, because you either use it or lose it. And this body's too important to lose it. He lived to be 99, almost 100. He stopped exercising at 99 and change because he had an illness. But a remarkable role model. Part of being resilient is looking out around you. Who's your role model? He didn't really know me by name, except I was Harry and Don's boy. But I watched him exercise, and it was like, wow, I'm going to be like him when I become an adult. When I learned to rollerblade at 40, my friends, it's too dangerous. No, it's not. I do it in parking lots after hours when it's closed. It's great exercise. And it's also fun. Helmet, wrist guards, knee pads, and have fun. So part of being resilient, play sports, be a sport. But who are your role models? Who are your mentors? Now, our time is wrapping up. So what other questions do we have?
So I would like to tell the members that are here on this meeting, Michael is having a problem on his screen. So every time you raise your hand, he is not able to see. So I advise you who has a question to send a message, and then Michael will see the message and you'll be
I
able
can see
to
the message,
participate.
but somebody has turned on the drawing aspect of this program, and
Yes.
they've blocked me out at the top of my screen. And the
Exactly.
second,
I
and the
can
second
see.
person.
Yes, I
Yes.
can see the blue on your screen. That's why, guys, that Michael is not, when you raise their hand, he's
I'm
not.
sorry,
able to see.
I'm not ignoring you. I can't see you.
Yes. So
Well,
if
I
anyone
can't.
has the question, please write a message on the chat, and then Michael will see the message, and then we'll be more interactive, because this is the goal, to be interactive one.
Yes,
Thank
please.
you.
So part of being resilient is take a look at how you define yourself. How have you allowed others to define you? So I can't speak for your family, but I had an auntie that had a very harsh life. So as an adult, she did her best to be nice and polite. However, on occasion, nastiness would slip out. And my mother would say to me later, I know she said something to you. What'd she say? And she only did it twice. And if you've lived a life of 20 years before you leave your home of nastiness, it's hard to turn that down and then turn it off. So my mother would say, sorry, we jumped way ahead there. Don't know what happened. So my mother would say, don't believe what she said if it was negative. So we've all had somebody define us in a negative way. And contrary to what my auntie said, yes, it's kind of big, but it's not that big. And I'm handsome my way. Can't be handsome your way, but I'm handsome my way. So I'm hearing sounds, but I'm not seeing any messages typed in. So take a look at how you've defined yourself. Remember, every day with a little broom, who said what to you? Was any of it derogatory or was any of it truth? If it's truth, what can you learn from it? If it's just derogatory for the sake of derogatory, get that broom out and sweep it into the garbage bin. Redefining ourselves in a flexible, safe manner is really key to being resilient. Our society is constantly trying to, through marketing, tell us if we just bought the right watch, if we just used the right computer, if we just had the right phone, we'd be cooler. Nah, not at all. If we just be more at peace with ourselves and developed our inner world and our outer world. So part of being resilient for me is calmness. And so some of the key skills, one of the most basic skills, belly breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, whatever you want to call it. I've been working with children as young as 3. The oldest known user of my program was 97. I'm told a 103-year-old used it, but I never got to meet them. So I can only claim 97. But skills, belly breathing, changes heart rate, changes brain waves. It's important. Star breathing. That's where I get people to move 5 points in the star. So up, quiet and slow. Down, quiet and slow. Over, quiet and slow. I get them to do the 5 points of the star, quiet and slowly. Then loud and fast. Anyways, by experiencing the energies, it helps rebalance. Square breathing, every point of the square. 1, 2, 3, 4 out. 1, 2, 3, 4 in. Hold for 4. The other corner, the other corner, the other corner. The goal is to be calm. 3 major skills that have changed the quality of my life and lowered my fear sometimes to 0. Doesn't mean don't have a little anxiety going on and talk to 2,000 people or 12 people, but pre-framing, practicing in advance. My father didn't know that's what he was doing with me, but learning to teach me how to ride a bicycle. Michael, you've done really well on the tricycle. Steering, braking, pedaling. You've got 3 really good skill sets already well underway. Biking without training wheels now, we're going to learn balance. I want you to practice. You're going to look ahead, close, long, short look, long look. It's just like driver's ed years later. And he had me practice in advance before I even did it. And as you bicycle, you're going to frame it as that I'm looking, being safe, I'm going the right speed for all the number of people around me and the type of road I'm on. I'm going to remember to signal if I turn left, if I turn right. And then after you're done, what worked? What would you like to change? And what I wanted to change, he taught me reframing. And that was an important skill. Mind traps. Anybody got mind traps? One of my small mind traps from high school, and our celebrity guru might just have a mind trap he's willing to share. One of my mind traps was that I lent money to a girl named, I won't mention her name because it's a small world. And that $2, I only made $1.65 an hour. I lent her $2. She never paid me back. It was high school. We were busy. It doesn't really matter. But 20 years later, I'm doing business with a Mary. Oh, I said her name. 20 years later. And I thought, why don't I trust this person? They've been so successful with me in the past, but suddenly, and I realized they had the same name and the same look. And I went, oh, Michael, that's just ridiculousness. You're projecting onto somebody now in your 30s from something that happened when you were 13. This is just nonsense. So mind traps, we've all got a few. Be very careful about mind traps. That motorcycle gang that robbed me, the guy that threatened to assault me, 6'3", arms as big as my legs, fingers like big sausages. So physically, If he'd have done a whack, I swear he could have killed me. Years later, I'm in a mall, a grand opening. So it's crowded. There's lots of specials. I'm there as a customer, not a retail expert. This great big tall blonde hair guy with muscles and the shirt sleeves ripped off to show muscles, just like the guy that robbed me, bumps me. He looks down. Sorry, man. I didn't talk. I only became aware of where I was and who I was and what I was. Minutes later, I'd run out of the store halfway across the parking lot, and I'm at a street light in the parking lot. I'd had a panic attack of the highest order. I'd actually, as I was running, hit an old lady, and I picked her up and put her back down and just kept running. So mind traps, they can trap our thinking and feeling and our bodies because of something that happened back in time. So what are your mind traps? Do you have any? I bet you got a couple you don't know. So part of being resilient is give yourself permission to understand that you might just have a mind trap that's getting in the way. So pardon me, here we go. Turtle walking, that's meditative walking. That's heel, toe, walking so slow that you almost fall over. But that's being very conscious of your breathing, your walking, your muscle. And as we get close to wrap up time, key factors to be resilient: gratitude. My life has been harsh with the concussion, the chronic illness, the 3 battles to live with cancer, and yet I'm still here. I'm very grateful for the medical training that my 2 surgeons left North America to get advanced training in Europe, because in the 1970s and 80s with my cancer battle, we were still doing 1950s surgeries in North America. And yet some small country in Northern Europe decided there was a better way. And after 9 years of medical school, both my surgeons went back to school for 6 more months. To this day, I'm in awe and grateful that they did that. Now they're both semi-retired in one case and fully retired in another, 176, 174. So challenge, half full versus half empty thinking helps us be more resilient. Because if it's half full, we're looking for solutions as opposed to reasons not to go forward. Commitment and competence. I am committed to be a little more competent every day. Not perfect, but more competent. Sense of control. We had some technical hiccups before 9 o'clock today. I was confident that the experts on the other ends of the world would make it happen. We'd just find another platform, and here we are. So my sense of control didn't go away. And worst case scenario, I was just going to turn my camera on and add audio to my presentation, and then just sent it off to Adriana so she could share it later. Connectiveness. Who have you invited into your life at a professional level, at a personal level, at a play level? When I say play, at one point in my life, I was living in a small apartment on my own, and I learned to rollerblade and I mountain biked because that's where some people I hung out with. And one group on Thursday nights were 16 to 21-year-olds. I was the token old guy. I was 40. But boy, did we have lots of fun. We only ever met at the rollerblade park, but we had a great time. So who have you connected with? Why? What do you teach them? What do they teach you? How open are you to the new experiences of connectedness? And last but not least, what are your stress awareness skills? And how do you manage it? Now, I'll be the first to tell you that I love my coffee, but moderation. I grew up in a family where my dad had 2 drinks of alcohol over a week, one on Friday night, one on Saturday night. Lots of discipline and control. I have friends whose family never drank alcohol, and other families who had a bit of an issue to a big issue with alcohol. I can't judge who was right and wrong, but take a look at your sense of stress awareness and the skills to manage it. So as we wind down, I want to leave you with my email address. And if you have questions, we will talk. Leave me a question. Email me a question. resilientmichael@gmail.com, please. And I want to thank you for this time. And if you have questions, I'm open to taking them now, but for some of you, I know you have other things you have to go to. We've reached our 1 hour. Questions? And you're gonna have to write them in because I can't see some of you. Any questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got my email in the chat. If you have a question for me, please feel free. It was lovely to see some of you. Don't know where the blue came from, but oh well. These things to keep us humble. Somebody had fun. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Really, really, really amazing. Again, I am humbled, honored, blessed, privileged, and super excited to learn the lessons of fear, how to came out from the fear and resiliency, and your wisdom should be heard by millions and millions in the world. God bless you, brother.
Thank you. I have a goal. I'm releasing a mental health program in the next 7 weeks. I have a goal that I want to reach 250,000 North American families. And we're going to be releasing in English, and the video will have English subtitles by the end of the summer. Then, because I'm in North America first, we're going to release it with French subtitles and Spanish subtitles. And I know a professional that wants me to do Portuguese subtitles, so we're going to do that. But I've had several people ask me for Filipino subtitles, so that's on the to-do list. And then I have people asking for Urdu subtitles. And we'll get all the text into different languages because, again, my sense of resiliency is from what I learned. I don't have degrees in this. I've got some designations and certifications for a baseline because on occasion I get people calling me in desperation, and I'm not a mental health expert. I'm a tour guide in the land of resiliency to help people get started. But because some people are stuck and they trust me, I'm honored when they call me, but I'm not a suicide helpline. But I've taken 2 courses now. So it's important. So as I do that, please join my Facebook page, Resiliency for Life. Inside Facebook, Resiliency for Life, we have a page and a group. The group's got over 100 free resources you can share with those you know and love that might want to learn more about resiliency inside the photo section. And I post that about once a week saying, here's where you find the resources inside the group. So thank you very much. Any last questions?
Thank you, sir. We will,
Yes, Michael, I have a last question.
Yes, okay.
My question to you is, Michael, what is your mission, passion, purpose, vision, and secret to your success? One more time. Michael.
I want to get into, ultimately in the next 5 to 7 years, I want to be in 15% of all households in North America, because I'm told 15% is the big number to get a nation to change. If I can help 15% of all North American households in 3 languages learn how to be more resilient, having worked with children that have been horrified with terrible things they've seen, if I can help them in 5 sessions and using our programming to have their acting out of their trauma completely go away. I am not an expert. This is learned skills from all over the world from major research. I only have one problem with North American research, and it's uncomfortable to talk about, but it's very important. The research acts like the men in these university labs discovered it. They personally discovered it, but ancient wisdom from many countries in the world have known what they've scientifically validated. So I'm pleased they scientifically validated it, that belly breathing, diaphragmatic breathing changes heart rate, creates more neural pathways. These are all really big breakthroughs for science. But I just have one request for researchers. Please look up, look around, and look outside of your community and your country and say, what other cultures have been doing this for 2,000 and 5,000 years? So that's the only thing that the research bothers me, because they say things like, look what we discovered. No, look what you scientifically validated. That's awesome. But could we give some credit to, we'll say, the country of India for doing this, and the country of Japan, or many African nations for this? Because they've been doing it for centuries, millenniums. So that's my only complaint. So my passion, 15% of all North American countries, or 15% of all North American families in the next 2 to 5 years, and then outwardly from there, because I've got several people in Pakistan saying, please come here. I've got my very wise associate in Brazil saying, hey, we got to do this in Portuguese. And then I've got some friends in other countries saying, Michael, you've made it easy to understand. I said, well, to me, mental health, it's really important we have people that are experts in depression and schizophrenia and personality, different personality style issues. But we also need to take a look at what I call resiliency skills, or situational mental health skills, so we can cope with the everyday things like pre-frame, frame, and reframe. If I'd had that skill set taught to me in grade 1 and 2, maybe I wouldn't have freaked out on spelling tests, because for those that know me well, spelling and grammar are my nemesis. The family joke is, if I have a tombstone, it'll be Michael Ballard. Spelling was his nemesis. So I could get 80s and 90s on grade 12 and grade 13 exams in my high school days, but writing an exam when I wasn't allowed to have a dictionary, I would fail because they'd take 2 marks and 5 marks off for spelling and grammar errors. So I knew the subject, I couldn't spell it. So if I'd have known pre-framing, framing, and reframing to be less anxious, who knows, maybe I could have spelled endoplasmic reticulum and other wonderful biological word terms and passed. Because I didn't fail because I didn't know the topic, I failed because I couldn't spell. And that was the 1970s reality of education. Anyways, that's it. I know people have things to do, places to go. And for those of you in Pakistan, thank you for tuning in late in the day. It's appreciated. And I'll say my goodbyes. And I've left you my email address, resilientmichael@gmail.com, for those of you have a question. And Resiliency for Life in Facebook is the group. We've got almost 4,000 members. I try to put up free resources every week, 3 or 4 of them. And I put up quotes. The quotes aren't to change your life. The quotes are to give you a conversation point with yourself, with somebody else. I have a couple of teachers that have asked me, and we've developed them for screensavers, or come up like a PowerPoint presentation in a classroom so the teacher can put them up before class starts and just let them play through. Anyway, so we'll be making those available soon enough. So again, thank you. Have a great day. Be safe. Let's be in touch. And thank you to Adriana and her associates for making this possible. Thank you.
Sir, you can leave the meeting because you are host here. After you will leave the meeting, everyone will be logged out.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.